I'm Matthew O'Brien from Midland Pictures, and you're listening to the Podlemania Photography and Video Podcast with hosts Wayne Johns and Jake Hicks, a pair of very top blokes.
Welcome to Podlemania Podcast, your photography and video podcast where we introduce you to some of the most amazing creatives from around the world. I'm your host, Wayne Johns, and I'm here with my good friend, buddy, and co-host, as always. But this time, it's the Mr. Super Long-Haired Jake Hicks.
I knew it was coming, man. I was prepared for it. I was prepared.
Hey, man, how's it going?
It's good, man. It's good. You joke. I did a live stream last night, and it was Caveman Reviews Your Photos.
Really?
It's been a year, I think, since a haircut.
And that was just a comment from the wife as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
savage, mate. Savage.
To be fair, man, I know the last episode we did, which we mentioned about haircuts and barbers and whatever, obviously, because we're still in lockdown here, but it's been lifted now. Hairdressers are back open.
Wow. I mean, thanks for that. Yeah. I mean, this is the longest I've seen your hair. I mean, it's got to be at least 2 centimeters long.
I don't think that's by choice. No, mate. Mine's getting so thin now. I think it's best to keep it short. I just don't want to scare people. But I'm surprised, man, that, hairdressers opened yesterday. I'm surprised you're not sort of first on the list to get in there and get those locks, lopped off a little bit.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, this may come as a shock to you, Wayne, but it's not my top priority. I'll be honest. Is my hair. I mean, but
okay.
But yeah, I mean, I got a workshop on Saturday, so I'm already trying to think up excuses for why I look like a Neanderthal. But,
True, man. I think you should just go and rock a top bun or something, mate. Just pull it back, band it up there.
Top knot,
mate. Get a top knot in there. Never seen you with that, but it'd be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I had a top knot for Halloween a couple of years ago, and it
really?
was actually looks pretty good. I was almost annoyed at how good it looked. I'm like, God damn it! I can't possibly start vaping and drinking coffee out of organic mugs just yet.
I have no idea what you're deliberating over there, my friend. I think you should just top knot that bad boy and rock it for the next workshop and go out in style.
Well, I mean, yeah. I might have to, otherwise it's going to get trapped in things.
I know people can't see us on video here.
Trapped in the door. Yeah.
It has got some length over the last year, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. You're a lucky man to be growing.
It's becoming an escalator hazard at this point.
Yeah, just see that now. Yeah. And coming in part 2. But no, there's some good news. A little bit of good news. Obviously, lockdown has lifted a little bit here since the 12th. Some things are allowed back open. Non-essential businesses, as they call it, is allowed back open again.
Yeah. So, I heard people were queuing outside, shops there in London and stuff. Can't wait to get back in there. I presume Primark was, you just people have been suffering without that.
Suffering without Primark or Primarche. I don't know. I haven't sort of even followed up on that. I couldn't be bothered to waste the time and effort on people queuing for a clothes shop. It's like better things in my life to do, I think,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the times of black market haircuts are now behind us.
Especially at 300 quid a shot. £300 a haircut, you were saying. Black market. Crazy. Holy cow.
Guy on the corner down there, he was doing, Coke, LSD, haircuts, whatever you need. It's whatever it takes, mate.
It's funny. The farmer down the road where I live, mate, was doing sheep shearing, haircuts, and a bit of a sheep dip. You could have had your hair washed all silky and smooth, my friend. And for free. Yeah. No, it's good. We're back with another episode. The weather's good out there. The sun is shining. It's really nice. And today, my friend, we're going to be moving into the moving image world a little bit, aren't we? Moving images today. And by that, I don't mean you're sort of wandering around, shaking your camera up and down whilst pressing the shutter button. I mean moving images as in film, video.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, to share that with you. You just picture you just in your studio.
To be fair, what I know about video could be written on the back of a fag packet. Yeah. It's not a huge amount.
Yeah, it warranted that statement to follow that up. It really did. So we're going to be talking with with Matthew O'Brien from Midland Pictures today, and we're going to be diving into a little bit of film production, editing, Final Cut Pro, YouTube, all those kind of things, bit of documentary filmmaking and things like that, aren't we? So it's going to, obviously not going to cover masses in our interview, but we'll cover what we can for everybody. But I think it's going to be nice and interesting. Interesting insight. Yeah. Wow. Should we dive straight into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, folks. Well, welcome to episode 46. And today we're talking with the super talented and smooth talking Matthew O'Brien from Midland Pictures, a film production company based in Omaha that tells stories for the cinema that forge lasting emotional bonds between businesses and the audiences they create. They pride themselves in producing narrative and documentary films that inspire your audience to take action. Matt himself is a screenwriter, director, editor on short films, commercials, and reality TV, and also has a fantastic YouTube channel where he covers a range of topics, including tips, tricks, and tutorials for using and editing with Final Cut Pro. He covers camera and film gear and lighting reviews, post-production and workflow, and even things like how to price your work. And I have to say that when I've had a few issues with Final Cut Pro, because I do a bit of film, but I'm no editor, I've got stuck with Final Cut Pro a couple of times, and Matt's channel has helped me out in some of those instances. And I have to say, in the very simplest of ways as well. He puts it across in such a way even stupid people like me can understand. So I'd say if you want to learn more about Final Cut Pro, editing and workflow, then definitely head on over to the Midland Pictures YouTube page and dive on in. But not holding back on that, Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, fellas. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Welcome. Yeah, pleasure.
Welcome. Yeah. Good to have you on. It's been excited for this one. Excited because we have no relationship with you, really, apart from me using your YouTube channel or viewing your YouTube channel and going, shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. Damn sight more than I do for sure. Hold on, let me just pause that, rewind it, play that again whilst I've got Final Cut Pro open. And now it makes sense. So I got to thank you for that at the start.
That's the hope. I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to try to share the knowledge and get everybody up to speed on Final Cut, help them get those tips and tricks that unlock what they're trying to do. And it's just past the 10-year anniversary of Final Cut Pro 10, now called just Final Cut Pro. Apple dropped the Roman numeral.
That's right.
And I've been using it since day one.
And I'm still no better at it. How about that?
I'm still learning new things. 10 years in, I still learn new tricks.
Well, Matt, before we get into the questions, as we do with everybody, for our audience, how would you describe yourself and what you do?
Oh, wow. I would describe myself as, I think just a passionate storyteller, someone that's very curious and wants to know everything I can about a lot of things, from locally here, a company that creates agricultural equipment for the Midwest to an artisan woodworker. I love using storytelling as a way to learn more about those skills, crafts, specialties, the things that other people are passionate about. And so I like to bring all of the things I've learned over the years in the show business, performing arts world to tell those stories.
Okay.
And I think that's such a lovely way, whether it's still imagery or moving imagery, is just having a story and following that through. You can connect with people so deeply, so well.
And having exposure to those things and really having a vision sort of cast in your mind and then acting on that vision, that's always been exciting to me, to sort of see where a story exists and then putting all of the complex moving parts together to make it happen. It's a really thrilling process, and I love doing it.
And to get that finished result, because I think the important thing is, as we all know, whether you're stills or moving image, what you capture in camera is never what the client is getting as the end result. There's a lot of work in between that before you give the finished result and the color and the grading and how the image is going to look at the end, isn't it? So.
Well, and then when the client takes what you've made to get the results that they're looking for, whether it's revenue, how they feel about their own business, their confidence, the things that made them choose to do the project in the first place. Getting those results is another extra layer of satisfaction, I think, when you're working in commercial or corporate photo or video, I assume.
Yeah, agreed.
Matt, you mentioned you were based in the Midwest there, right? In Omaha?
Yeah,
US,
good old Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay. Now I'm just going to change it because I've got a question here that I'm going to jump into in a second. But we spoke before we hit record here, and I think you've got a pretty interesting background that I wouldn't mind the listeners hearing. Would you mind sharing how like your route to Omaha there? Because you didn't start out there.
Yeah, it's pretty circuitous. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. If you've seen the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, they filmed that in my hometown. So it wasn't in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. It was in a little town called Woodstock, Illinois. And I had one of my first sort of connections with filmmaking there. I got to go into town. I think I was in junior high at the time, or maybe even maybe a freshman in high school. And I got to watch them film all these outdoor scenes. I got to meet Harold Ramis and got his autograph. We got to interact with Bill Murray while we were hanging out. It was a really incredible experience. And then oddly enough, after I got my acting degree from the University of Illinois, I came back to Chicago and was doing stand-in work. I don't know if you're familiar with stand-in work at all, but it's part of the crew or part of the, not quite the talent, but you basically are the same physical body type as one of the actors in the scene. And you've probably done this in your photography, maybe where you have someone stand in just to check your lights and how things look.
The assistant stands there,
yeah. So I was doing that on a Harold Ramis movie and got to talk to him about having been on Groundhog Day and got his autograph and all that. So it was a nice sort of full circle moment.
A loop. Nice. Okay.
Anyway, so that was my connection with filmmaking growing up. And then for college, I went to the University of Illinois and pursued a degree in acting through theater. So after I graduated, moved back to Chicago, started a theater company, was auditioning and doing different things like that in Chicago, and then decided I wanted to transition into screenwriting. And so I applied to grad school at Florida State University, their film school there, and got accepted, and moved to Tallahassee, Florida for 2 years. And then from there, moved to Los Angeles from 2008 till 2011. And then from there, my wife and I had to leave reluctantly because of.
Well, yeah, because you mentioned obviously 2008, very rough time for everybody.
We moved the week
financially.
We moved the week that the global financial crisis hit, especially hard here in the United States with a housing crash in the stock market and all that. So with soaring unemployment and underemployment in Los Angeles, my wife wasn't able to find work. And although I was working, it wasn't really enough income to sustain both of us with the cost of living in Los Angeles being so high.
Yes, super expensive. Yeah.
Well, even our apartment that we had back then, I think is renting for twice as much now, just in the 10, not even 10 years since we left. A 1-bedroom apartment that then was $1,200 a month US. So, and that was in like a not the greatest neighborhood in Los Angeles. So,
and that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, we paid that from 2008 to 2011, $1,200 a month. My mortgage
and you're saying it's double that now.
Yeah, I think it's about $2,400 a month for that same 1-bedroom apartment. And my mortgage here in Omaha, Nebraska for an entire house and property and all that is right around $700.
Jesus,
wow.
Yeah, so quite a difference.
Huge.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So we moved to Omaha. My wife grew up here in the Omaha area. We needed a place that was still a city, even though it's not a metropolis like Los Angeles or Chicago, but then a lower cost of living so we could recover from, the debt. I have, of course, in the States with grad school and undergrad, a ton of student loan debt to deal with. So we had to come here to basically recover from that and then sort of change directions with what I was pursuing. I was still doing screenwriting while I was here in Omaha, but started working in post-production and filmmaking, video for corporate, that kind of thing, and have gone from there.
Nice.
Well, thank you for being so candid with that, because I think that there are a huge number of people who are in your situation as well, and it's, it sounds all great, move to the big city and make your millions and that sort of stuff. And I get it. But the reality is often a little bit different. And where you are now, which is not in a big city, as you've said, but you're making huge savings, with your cost of living, which is great. And let's be honest, I'm sure as a maybe a slightly higher quality of life in the in the space that you have as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to like drive to Home Depot and park safely in a parking lot, without
safely. It's a magic word.
Well,
right. Okay.
Not necessarily like in a crime sense, but like everything is so compressed in Los Angeles that just like navigating a parking lot there, because they're trying to fit like an American parking lot into this tiny area in the city that, unless you have a compact car, it's difficult to navigate. So I drive a Ford F-150 and can drive to Home Depot in relative comfort and not have a 1 mile drive take 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was was the other fun part about Los Angeles. You want to go hang out with somebody who lives 5 miles away, don't even bother. It's going to take half the day to get there because of traffic.
Because your
and all
public
that.
transport there is terrible as well. In
yeah,
LA
I mean,
as well.
Los Angeles has it, and they definitely made some improvements before we moved. But the to get to the subway station, sure you could take the bus, but to get to the subway station, they just didn't have them as regularly as like in Chicago. In Chicago, with the elevated train and their subway system, I mean, you could just walk a couple blocks and get on at a stop. I didn't even drive. I didn't even drive a car in Chicago when I lived there.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts.
But that all plays nicely into my first question here, which is as the owner of a small video production business outside of a big city, like who are your clients? Like, are you making videos for clients that are now that are maybe new to moving image where you are?
Yeah, I think there's always kind of a joke about the Midwest that we take about 5 or so years to catch up to what people are doing on the coasts.
I didn't say.
Yeah,
that.
no.
I
No, I used to tell that joke, and then I moved back to the Midwest, and now I'm the butt of that joke. So
right, yeah, gotcha. Okay.
So paying attention to what's happening on social media, YouTube, the democratization of filmmaking, so that all these companies, from a mom and pop shop to a multi-$100-million company based here in Omaha, that they now have access to getting video content created at scale, as opposed to the old way, which was, you got to look at a 6-figure budget. You're going to get a whole film crew. They're all going to be like union top-end professionals. To even start a conversation about making a 30-second ad spot, you've got to be in the 6 figures to have that discussion. Not only just the money you have to spend on the creative, working with an ad agency to come up with what the ad spot is, but then the production company to actually execute it, and then all the systems and processes for buying airtime and all that. Well, now that doesn't really factor in for a lot of these companies, and they can hire motion design firms like mine, which acts as an agency in the sense that we will do design and strategy work for those videos. But at the same time, if it's more content for social media or YouTube, sometimes it can be a little bit more show up with a camera and film a bunch of stuff and craft a story out of it in the edit bay, which I don't love that process after doing it a lot here in Omaha.
Just shooting a ton of stuff and then having to edit it into something.
Yeah, a lot of it sometimes is, it's more like, hey, our company has this big event going on and we want to document it and get really great footage, maybe a couple off-the-cuff interviews. It's like this sort of hybrid journalism cinema style. And when I say cinema, I mean like people want cinematic looking footage. So, a nice prime lens, depth of field, that kind of thing, versus like the camcorder vibe of journalism. But then also, a little bit more of a documentary feel. So it doesn't have to be like these perfectly composed crane dolly, types of shots.
Yeah.
And then you can take that pile of footage and craft a moving piece with the right music or the right sound bites to make connections with their audience on social media.
But you are dealing with clients who may not have ever had video as part of their advertising model previously. Is that right?
Yeah. Traditionally what you're dealing with is your clients. You're dealing with clients that are either just going with what they've always done, which is print ads, stuff in the newspaper, stuff on coupon books, radio adverts, things like that. And you're seeing that usually what it is someone that is in like a marketing department or someone that's somewhat entrepreneurial on their team sees what video can do for them. But the people that actually make the decisions and write the checks just often want to, keep going with the status quo.
And that's a generational gap, though, right? You're talking about somebody on staff who's maybe younger, but the purse strings is held by somebody who's older.
Yeah, they're typically younger. I have worked with some, people on marketing teams that you wouldn't expect would understand how social media and web-based video content can really move their business forward and get them the results that they're looking for. Really, the biggest thing that I feel like I'm up against because I don't really do like any traditional sales. I worked in sales when I was in Chicago, educational sales, and it was like the movie Boiler Room. Like you literally sold somebody to enroll in this college, and they wanted you to ring a bell because you got them to sign up for these costly student loans. It was so cringy. I hated it. And I vowed, I am never going to embrace a traditional sales model. Let me tell you why you need a video today, Bob.
Yeah.
Take a seat. Here's what we can do for you.
I was wondering what that bell was behind you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I just
ring it if you're happy.
I just hate that dynamic where you're trying to persuade somebody to do something that they aren't already interested in doing. So
I get what you mean.
So what I prefer is to have conversations that hopefully inspire people to think of it in a different way and unlock, the ROI that there could be if they really embrace a comprehensive video strategy, a storytelling strategy. And it's really more about brand than it is about advertising. I personally don't want to help somebody sell more widgets necessarily by making a cool promo video. I want to create emotional connections between that business or brand and an audience, whether that audience is small, non-existent, big, and create those emotional connections.
And with that, as most of us know in our businesses, like many of us, we wear many hats and we have to handle many areas of the business. What challenges do you face in this business, being that person that wears many hats like us? And how do you manage them to make everything run smoothly?
I think the biggest thing for me is finding collaborators whom I trust, as far as crew, above the line crew, and the people that are going to help me actually make the moving pictures.
Yeah.
Developing that shorthand with them, being on the same page, sort of telepathically in a sense, without having to really, like my AC, I can just sort of give him a look and he knows. Actually, I can just compose my shot and he knows how I want the focus to play out, what exposure he needs to set things at to get the look that we're going for. He just, those
he knows.
Those repeat touch points with people like that develop that shorthand, and you just are always on the same page in what I call the creative flow. And that's what I really want to have on set. Whether it's in actual production, post-production, that everybody is just sort of in this flow state where the things are happening smoothly and we're getting everything that we need for the day. So that's one of the challenges on the production side, is finding those people. And then on the actual more business or client side, it's just actually one of the hardest things to do is just to say no to a project, is to go, this is not a good fit. And even though there's money here, this isn't going to help me achieve my goals. It's not going to get me the results I want. And if I'm just doing this for a paycheck and I don't have a vision for how I can help your company get the results and the goals that you're trying to get, it's just not going to work out.
Get you. Yeah.
So if we go into that, then what are your goals with client videos? Like, you speak about creating a lasting emotional bond between business and audience on your site. Like, how are you actually achieving that?
Well, what we hope to do is we hope to get to the emotional core of what that business is. And that happens in a couple of ways: by bringing the people in that business, the faces of that business, to the audience. We talk a lot about the best thing that you can do for your business or brand is to show, to bring yourself to the forefront. And that's difficult for most people to do. I started.
Yeah, it's more than just a logo and a mission statement. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this growing idea of show your work, let people see under the hood at, what goes on behind the scenes to show how you, whether you're the CEO of a company or you're the owner of a small, like woodworking shop, show people how you do what you do, that process, let them see you, make things, transform things, get results for the clients that you serve. So we want to make those connections with the people and personalities that are there at the business. But we also always want to show, what makes a company that makes irrigation equipment for agriculture. Like, why are they better or different than the other companies that do that? How do we highlight how their manufacturing process is different? Are they more eco-friendly? What are these different differentiating factors that we can bring to the forefront that people care about, that they want to see? And then when they do see that, they create an emotional connection. Oh, I really like this company because they're very forward thinking with their environmental impact being as little as possible. And here are the ways they demonstrated that. Even though this,
so it becomes more relatable over just selling a product.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And somebody might go, well, this thing costs more, but I value what they do, so I'm willing to pay more for it because I care about it. And that's really what we are trying to get to the heart of with the clients that we serve. We want to create that emotional bond between them and the audience. And it's difficult for clients because it's the long game. You really have to do this for a long time and create a lot of content before you start seeing results versus the traditional model. Again, going back to commercials. Hey, for $19.95, you can get blah, 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 and do this and sign up for this, call this number, no, 30-day free trial, money back guarantee, all that kind of stuff. That doesn't interest me at all. And although maybe sometimes that type of video creation or advertising, does have an impact on their ROI, I don't think it has the long game. It's not long term.
Yeah.
So getting clients to understand you're going to have to invest in this for a couple of years before you really start to see the results. And one example I give is my YouTube channel. 2 years of making content every couple of weeks and having 39 subscribers. And then all of a sudden, you start creating content that has real value and creates an emotional connection with your audience, and it takes off.
So, you're talking about this brand building as one of the key areas in your videos. Can you talk about your process then as a filmmaker, to achieve that with your clients? Like you mentioned about having this, it's not just, you're not just going to make one video and then it's done. Like what are some of the steps that you go and look, we're going to make a video every 2 months, every 6 months, every year? Like how are you brand building with a client?
Yeah, I think the strategy that we come up with varies, based on each client. And really what it starts out as a conversation where I try to climb inside the business and just let my curiosity start going, well, what about this? Or what process do you use for this? Or who are the people that, are really engaging and have a lot to say and are really passionate about what you do? And you really start to just download all of that information. And I just sort of use my general sense of, I think this would be really interesting to talk about on a YouTube channel, or we should make sort of a featured video for your website that just covers, a 5-minute documentary style summary, in a sense, of what your core values are, what your core identity is, why you do what you do, why you're passionate about it. And we usually try to build from there. So it can be anything from that sort of that main brand identity video, moving into testimonials, and not just testimonials that are like, Bob showed up on time. He was really friendly. That's nice, but I want your customers to show how you solved their problem. Your product, your service, whatever it was, transformed, took them from one place, I always call it their current state, to their desired future state. How you took them from where they were with some pain and frustration, and you transformed things for them and got them to where they wanted to go. And that's exactly what we're trying to do for our clients. They're frustrated. We don't have enough of a audience. We don't feel like we have community. People aren't loyal to our brand. How can we use storytelling to get us to that place? And that's where a company like Midland Pictures comes in.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because I think, it's like the nuts and bolts. You're doing what you would do in LA or Chicago or whatever, but what you are doing there is really building that very, very long-term relationship with your client, i.e. the people that you're making videos for. And I'm not saying that, in the city we don't have long-term relationships, but it's certainly nowhere as deep as it looks like what you're doing. Like you're trying to understand the business from the inside out, whereas, I just receive a brief and fine, okay, and then maybe I'll do a brief for them again next year. But it really feels like when it is a kind of different way of making a business outside of the city. That you can certainly do it, but it's more about getting into the relationships of that business owner as opposed to just the product and building that long term. Which it's amazing that you're making that happen. I think that's great.
Well, I think that's where the real fulfillment in the work can come from. I've done stuff where I'm a lot of projects where I'm just hired to execute something. That's what I call being an order taker. And they're like, hey, settle down, buddy. We just need you to push the button. Okay. Just
exactly.
Monkey push button, get banana. That's it. Like, we don't need your input. Like, do you know how to turn the camera on and the lights and make it look good? We know what we're doing. We just need you.
We know what we want.
I'm feeling personally attacked. It's kind of deep, man. It's kind of deep.
And so, well, and just like I want my crew and the people that I collaborate with to be trusted collaborators, people that I, a little melodramatic, but somebody I'd take a bullet for because we are in the trenches together. We're really trying to achieve something together. Yeah. I want that same dynamic with my clients. I want there to be trust. I want them to look up to me as an expert who's there to help them. It's like, it's like when you go to the doctor, you're not like, hey, doc, I'm not feeling well. I think I need a pancreas transplant. Here's the tools you need. Maybe use those forceps, not these. Slice me open next Tuesday. You don't do that with your doctor because you look up to them as like, I don't know what's inside of me. You help me figure out why I don't feel well.
I like that.
But when it's true. For some reason in the creative arts, I don't know if this happens with you both in photography, but in film, I think people watch video all the time and there's something about it that makes them feel like it's simple. There's something about the moving image that is very simple to people. And I've looked at your photography. You guys do with the projection, Jake, and, elaborate makeup and hair and, some really beautiful stylized shoots. Admittedly, a lot of our stuff is not like that. It's very documentary style. And when people see that content, I think they're just like, oh, you just show up and press record with the camera. And then you sit down at the computer and you literally have a thing that has one button. It's edit the video, boom. And then it just comes out, right?
Sorry if we're screwing that up for you.
Yeah, no, this is
Stills photographers.
So I think, when work comes my way, and this goes back to when to say no, when that dynamic with the client is, hey, pal, we just want you to push the button and crank out this thing and hand it over. It's just a hard no. It's a hard pass for me. Like I want to develop a relationship with you and help you achieve the results that you want, because I'll feel fulfilled when I stand back and go, we took this company, this brand, this whatever, and we came up with a strategy to solve their problem. And on the other side, they got to where they wanted. You feel like you built something. You feel like you accomplished something. It's much more fulfilling. And even though we're in the early days for that as a company, having those kinds of relationships, the ones that have turned out that way, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and on that, I think we all know that some of those clients that don't have the experience in moving image advertising or promotion for their business, we all know that they kind of know what they want, or they think they know what they want, but because they don't have the experience in it, sometimes what they want is not really what they want. I mean, we all know that even in stills. Which is where your skill sets come in, where you guide them through and almost shine the bright light on it to go, hey, this is where you could be going with the same cost and the same money, and just have some input from us to let you show you the proper way to get where you want to go, and we'll make it even better than what you're expecting.
So that's a conversation about self-diagnosing. A company might self-diagnose, that, oh, we need a video to do this thing. And then you, being the expert, someone who has a lot of experience at this, come in and go, you actually don't need a video at all. If you just start with this, like overhaul your website, for example, create some social media accounts and engage your audience in these simpler, less expensive ways. And let's just start there. And then let's talk about video a little bit later. Because a lot of times, you'll drop a kind of a price bracket, because they'll go, we just kind of want a video. It's a couple people interviewed, Yeah, how much is that going to cost? Well, I don't know. Like, how long's a piece of string?
That's it. Yeah.
It could be $5,000. It could be $50,000. We won't know until we make the blueprint. That sounds too complicated.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with companies and people that are new to moving image. They don't understand how much things cost or what goes into the production of a commercial or a campaign. They're just not aware of how much is involved.
Well, and I think a lot of times what we overlook when we are pricing video or pricing our work as creatives, what's the emotional state of the client? Are you going into an engagement where their lack of preparation is your emergency and you need to be on 12, 14 hours a day because they screwed up and they need this thing done in 2 weeks? That's a different rate than a longer term project where, there's some breathing room here, guys. Let's talk this through, figure this out, Like, if I'm not keyed up and saying, hey kids, I'll see you in 3 weeks, like, there's a different rate for that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fun times they are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of back and forth. It just helps iron out those little wrinkles to make things run smooth.
Yep, absolutely.
Going a bit more lighthearted, when we're talking about, when you're filming a production and you're on set, how many people, because our listeners are a very broad range from amateur right through to professional, and some may be stills or video, and some may be emerging from one to the other. So just as an idea, I know every production is different, so it is a kind of a run-of-the-mill question, really. How many people do you usually have in your team when on set? And who do you need with you to make the campaign or short film really work?
For the work that we do with our clients, the sweet spot for me for crew is usually around 5 to 6 people. And when I say sweet spot, it's a combination of budget, being realistic about the clients that we're serving here in Omaha and how much they can afford.
Valid point.
As well as the support staff that I need so that I'm not doing what a lot of people are doing that are getting into filmmaking for corporate and commercial, is the one man or one person band approach.
Yeah.
Where, they did some wedding films and now they're transitioning. Hey, could you do a video for us? And then they're running audio. They're doing the lights. They're running 2 cameras. They're conducting the interview. And you're spinning so many plates that you're bound to make mistakes that could jeopardize the project.
Yeah, indeed.
So we really try to go with a crew of 5 or 6. And then some of our short film projects and short documentaries, which are passion projects, so there's really not any kind of budget for that. I usually only have maybe 4 people total, including myself, because I have built strong relationships with those filmmakers where they are willing to go to work with me for no rate, for us to create something together, as opposed to me saying, show up here, do these things for me to serve my filmmaking goals.
So when you are doing something commercially based, for those that may not know those 5 people or so that you may have on set, who would they be? Just to give our listeners a bit of an education on the type of people you'd have on set.
Yeah, so I act as a director and producer, and I'm actually starting to look at handing off producer duties to some of the local freelance producers that we have here, because it can be a little bit overwhelming to be the day before a shoot running around to source craft services, PPE, because of COVID-19 restrictions on set, writing call sheets. I really am very, after going through film school, I really like to do the process. I want there to be a call sheet. I want there to be craft services, even if it's a bin with, Welch's fruit snacks and some, instant coffee, so that people have some of the things that they need on set to get through the day. So I'll be director, producer, and then I always hire a cinematographer because, you've seen on my YouTube channel, everything's pretty okay with lighting. I don't want to be managing both the lights and sort of like the technical stuff that we're doing with the camera and all that.
Yep.
I'll also hire a first AC. So the first AC is going to handle focus pulls.
What's an AC, sorry?
First AC is first assistant camera. So they're part of the camera team. The cinematographer is usually operating camera as well, unless for whatever reason I'm operating camera. And that first assistant camera operator does everything on our sets, from managing the cards on the camera and transferring those cards to 2 hard drives, to pulling focus, marks for actors. They handle really managing the camera, making sure the settings are correct, taking care of exposure, and making sure those camera settings aren't getting out of whack to where when we post-produce it, the image is too noisy, it was underexposed, there's issues that are going to cause repair work or extra work to get it right. Then I'll also have somebody, if audio is a key part of it, it's not just sort of a run and gun, get camera scratch audio kind of thing, but we're doing interviews or something with more formal audio, we'll hire an audio, a sound recordist. I'll usually have what I call a gaffer grip. Those positions are typically separate, but because ours are relatively low involvement with the amount of lights and camera equipment that we have, we usually combine that position. So the gaffer works with a cinematographer to set up the lights, move the lights, put light modifiers on to get the lights dialed in. And then on the grip side, they might help us with a Dana dolly, some of the camera equipment, moving light stands, things like that. And then that usually rounds it out. So AC, gaffer grip. Sometimes we'll do like a PA, just sort of general set assist. So if there's something running for, get lunch to coffee run, although I bring my Nespresso on set because I have to have coffee. I have to have my coffee on set. So I just bring the whole kit.
Such a diva, man.
Well,
such a diva.
When you're a producer.
And you get, if you want to deep dive into that, if people that don't know, what the roles of a producer are, then just jump back to episode 44 with Scott Pratt, because that's a producer that went into a big deep dive of what their roles are and the things they face. As we know, on bigger budgets and film sets comes a bigger list. So dive into episode 44. That's a good average. I think that gives a good explanation of sort of basic crew that you would have on smaller productions and things like that. And it just goes hand in hand, really. The bigger the production, the bigger the crew generally, because there's a lot more things to do and a lot more kit to manage and a lot more camera angles and everything else as well. So it just gets bigger. So it's not as easy as just one man and his dog, so to speak.
Well, and I think with the one man approach, I just don't know how those individuals can get into the flow state. And if they're aware of the flow state, I need that support staff to really feel like I'm connected to the vision for the piece and staying connected to filtering everything that we do on set, camera moves, how we light things. You need to stay focused on that stuff so that you're not like, oh, quick, the audio's got static, I got to go deal with that.
Yeah,
I don't want.
I mean, I feel it even doing stills. And it's similar in a way, but not with as many people. But when I'm doing sort of live shows or live demonstrations or fashion shoots, in some of the things that I do, and it's just me there, prepping and shooting. Jay, I'm sure you must feel this as well. That when you're talking to your audience, you've got a live audience with you, and then you're changing lights around and swapping them about, changing sets. If you don't have an assist with you doing that, it does interrupt your flow and your eye-to-eye contact with your audience. So even in live shoots, if you don't have an assist on helping you shift lights and getting the next set ready, then one, it eats into your time. Two, it takes you away from your audience. And three, I think it certainly affects your flow because you start sweating like crazy because you're rushing to get the next shot.
Well, you're just
up and ready to go. So
you're constantly switching what part of your brain is at the forefront. And I think it's
a time thing.
Yeah. I just like to stay in that creative brain space, and don't get me wrong. I've been hired as, different crew positions and, it's nice to just sort of not be in the creative, thinking sometimes. I'm just assisting with camera or doing something that's a little bit simpler, but I've always been surprised too, even with the bigger local commercial photographers, how they don't really have any crew with them. And they're doing these very elaborate, very similar to your photography, elaborate fashion stuff or, complex staging. They don't have they don't have like an art director or somebody that's going to help them move pictures and arrange stuff on the table. And they're just doing it all themselves. And I just can't imagine how that's as pleasurable. And maybe I got lucky at film school because we had 10+ person crews. And I was like, this is great. And then when I went to a one-man band, I was like, this is terrible. I don't want to do this.
So to all of you listening that do come to any of mine and Jake's workshops, now you understand the effort we put in.
A lot.
I'm just a control freak. I don't let anybody else. They're not qualified to move the lights.
True.
And that can be a big part of it too. Yeah, just that control. Yeah. It's hard to give it up, especially Jake, if you haven't encountered somebody, that, or maybe even given them a chance if you haven't, but to encounter somebody where you really trust them. Like you give them a look, Jake, and they're like, I know to move this light, like
Jake trusts no one.
Yeah.
It's all mine.
I've definitely experienced the opposite end of that stick.
Yeah.
It's and it drives you around the bend.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've had assistants with me on commercial shoots and campaigns that he's no longer with me. Has definitely shouted out across set with the client in studio something that should not have been said out loud in front of the client. Yeah, something so simple as well that was very embarrassing.
Yeah,
I'll go into details on that one. And moving on to a little bit more fun.
Wow, just let that hang out there, man. Wait, can't believe you didn't flush the toilet. Yeah. What are you doing, mate?
It's overflowing. What's happening?
Nothing quite that bad. But moving on to something a bit more fun now, taking away the stress of, not the stress, but the build up of all the business side of it, how complex and pressured that can be. Let's just dive into a little bit of the nicer things, like the post-production side. But out of the questions, which do you like best? Do you like filming and directing or post-production?
That is tough, because if I think about filming when I am in the flow state, I mean, I can come off set euphoric, where it is just amazing. What an amazing experience. That doesn't often happen on post-production, but I think overall I probably enjoy post-production more because it's more relaxed and
peaceful.
Yeah, peaceful, so I would probably say post-production.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But I can understand the euphoric state once you're in a good flow and the day becomes amazing and you wrap up, you wrap and it's like, just that amazing feeling. It's just good. But okay, I understand the other side. Jake will probably relate to you more on the post-production side because I hate sitting in front of screens after the shoot, editing.
Yep.
It's just
I would definitely echo your thought. You definitely get that buzz when you know that you've got the shot and it's just like, that's killer. You definitely get that buzz. And you're right, you don't really get that buzz in post pro. It's just like, oh, wicked, sick color curve. And it's just nailed it.
Ooh, that clarity on that. Oh, that's just man, it's great.
That's got me going.
And it's different as well. Obviously, once when you're filming, you've got your shot list and they're very specific for your video footage. They've got to be exactly what they've got to be to work. Whereas in stills, obviously, we can rattle off extra frames in movement, and sometimes as we call, I hate saying this, have a happy accident and get a shot that we never ever thought we were going to get. And it's like, bam, that's just smashed. The winning shot over everything else we've done. Or you have a really good shoot day. And, you shoot one of your looks and normally you shoot 30, 40 images per look is an average for me. But you get a bit carried away and you end up, next thing you know, you're shooting 100 looks of the same, 100 images of the same look because it's all going so damn good. Now, when you get them back in post-production and you have to go through and make your selections, you're going, shit, man, I like about 50 of these.
Yeah.
And then you got to knock it down to 40, down to 30, and you only want 3. I find that the hard bit. It's like, I like so many.
Absolutely.
And maybe sometimes, you're not always the best person to choose the final shots.
There's some bias there, probably.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. So on the production side, okay, so you like the production probably a little bit more afterwards. And on the post-production side, why Final Cut Pro? That's the main question. Because, we've got Premiere, we've got DaVinci Resolve, you've got Final Cut Pro as probably your mainstays in post-processing of video.
Mm-hmm.
iMovie,
Windows Movie Maker. I mean, if you're not editing in Windows Movie Maker, you're doing something wrong.
Is it Sony?
Oh, you even
Sony Vegas?
Is it Vega?
Oh, yeah.
It's Vegas. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why Final Cut for you? Why is it Final Cut?
So this goes back to the flow state again, the creative flow. Final Cut is an application that gets out of your way and allows you, out of all the other applications, I feel like, to lose yourself in the craft and art form of editing. You are not often finding yourself managing everything from program crashes to complex menu systems, stuff that you have to be I feel like you have to be a video engineer to navigate on a daily basis with your projects. I don't disagree that DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro, Avid Media Composer are better suited for high-end post-production workflows like you see in television and film because of all of the interconnectedness of the various departments, audio, visual effects, color, etc. Final Cut has a lot of features missing that makes it difficult to get things from your NLE to those departments in turnover, 100%.
Yeah.
And then,
glad you said that. Yeah.
And there are definitely things too on like the video engineering side of things that Final Cut is missing. That can be frustrating for people that really tap into their technician side of their brain versus the creative side of their brain. I think there's some editors that are all creative and they lean into their assistant editors if they're fortunate enough to have them to help them with the technical side. There's some editors that are more technicians and love the complexity of Premiere Pro, but maybe they're not editing out of that creative place as much as they are from a technical place. Because I lean more towards the creative side, Final Cut to me, again, the software just gets out of the way. And I feel like with the magnetic timeline specifically, that I'm able to edit as fast as I can think of what I want to do.
Get you. Yeah.
And I can move things. I can take a whole scene, slide it down, have everything kind of move with it. And I don't have to stop to do a bunch of technical tasks to make a creative move.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the organizational nutcase that I am, Final Cut to me has incredible tools. And this is sort of the hidden superpower, I think, of Final Cut, especially if you do a lot of documentary editing. The tools that you have in the browser to organize all of your media without having to make sequences and pulling selects down and filling up timelines and sequences and pancaking them and copying and pasting and all that stuff. I don't even do that. I mean, I don't put a clip down into my project unless I'm starting to actually tell the story.
And you've got a video about obviously file setup and everything else on your YouTube channel, haven't you? With Final Cut, just one of the many things, and I'll remember that one. Just for a bit of an organization skills for you when you're setting out with your media and things, importing your media.
Right.
I've seen that one. Very good video.
Thank you.
Me a lot. Thank you for that. and the templates, which obviously you shared online.
That's the key. Yep.
Very kind of you. I'm going to say I like Final Cut Pro, and a lot of people will say, obviously, because Final Cut is an Apple product, then it does work smoother and more seamless on Apple machines. Obviously, it's an Apple piece of software, so you're not going to get it on PC. So it does work more seamlessly than, say, Adobe or DaVinci Resolve. I've used all three in the past, and DaVinci Resolve, at one point for the color grading side of it, because his color grading tools are just, awesome. There's no disputing that. Premiere, I kind of steered away from, and like a lot of people I know are sort of dropping Adobe, maybe not in the film sort of, industries and things like that, but a lot of sort of smaller businesses are dropping Adobe because one, they hate the subscription plan and they're not really getting the updates for the money they're paying and all the money they're paying. And also a lot of people are having issues with Adobe. And I find it even in Photoshop that it's so GPU and CPU hungry. I can see my available RAM just disappear even when I'm using Photoshop now, let alone Adobe Premiere.
Yeah.
I have to keep clearing that cache out just to free up the working RAM on it. And I don't get that with Final Cut Pro. So for me, it's more seamless in that respect as well. And a lot of people, I think, struggle with DaVinci Resolve's interface, especially with the node system, rather than, even though it's kind of like layers, but linking all those nodes together can be quite complicated if you don't understand the principle.
Yeah.
Which I can understand.
Just like the magnetic timeline is pull your hair out frustrating until you unlearn what you have learned and wrap your head around conceptually how the magnetic timeline works, coupled with all of the shortcuts, keyboard tricks, and all the things that you need to use to work with the magnetic timeline instead of against it.
And I think, and that's something you touch on a lot, isn't it? Is the importance for these people that if you're new to editing, or it's something you're moving into and getting into, one thing I know you push out quite a lot, and I agree with you, is that, learn your keyboard shortcuts, because it will just save you a huge working time if you learn your keyboard shortcuts and know what they do.
Absolutely.
It's a big thing.
Because there's just so many things that aren't in the menu systems or the right-click menus when you're navigating the timeline. That certain keyboard shortcuts will prevent you from doing what I see a lot of Final Cut users do, which is they put a gap clip in the primary storyline, a big gray slug, and then they edit above it and organize their clips up there. And they're missing out on the single greatest feature in video editing that I think has almost ever been made, other than digital video editing in the first place.
No, I agree.
Wow.
You've been looking at my timelines, have you? The grey slugs dropped in. It's like,
and
not anymore.
Yeah, and I think again, there's several keyboard shortcuts and different menu features, things that you can use to navigate that magnetic timeline, so you're not frustrated when you try to move a clip, but then your audio goes out of sync, or this thing happens, or whatever the undesired outcome is. If I was sitting there next to you, I'd be, oh no, do it this way. Press and hold the tilde key and then move your clip, and that clip connection will be ignored, blah, 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 and you'll be good. Oh, and that's why my most popular video, the 9 magic tricks video, which I think is closing in on 85,000 views, has resonated with people, because I said to myself, what are things I learned or was taught about Final Cut where it was like that moment of magic where you're like, oh, how did I not know that? And so compiling all of them together really, really helped grow the channel and teach people these tricks that help them.
Not going to lie, it's one a long time ago I watched many times over, because it had the pause and a repeat. Not only that, you can watch it and understand it, but then you've actually got to open Final Cut Pro and work something through it to apply what you're learning to really understand it, for it to sink in. Yeah,
truly.
Okay,
I'm just going to close out this section here, but talking about people starting out, I know that you were kind of hesitant to talk about the lone wolf videographer, as it were, but I'm sure you must have done a video shoot by yourself at some point in the past. For those people starting out, what does your lone wolf video kit look like?
For me,
iPhone.
Yeah, right, iPhone. I use Canon cameras because, again, for me, they allow me to stay more in the flow state because the menu systems are intuitive to me. They may not be the best cameras spec-wise, but I ran with a Sony a6500 for a while, and the menu just didn't. I couldn't get my head around it, and I made every effort.
You're not alone.
Yeah, every effort, and I think on the newer cameras they've really overhauled their menu system. I've made every effort. So, I'm using the EOS R, and I really like it. If I had to start today as a lone wolf and needed a good camera that wasn't like a higher end cinema camera, I would probably go with like an EOS R5. And if you have EF glass, I would get their RF to EF adapter that has the built-in ND filter, because to me, after using cinema cameras with built-in ND, that for me, for the lone, it's almost impossible to go back because it's so convenient. So even with my EOS R having that built-in ND, even though it's like a dial, it's not like a button that does 2 stops, 4 stops, 6 stops.
I'm amazed more cameras don't have that. I mean, I know one of the things I love about my Nikons is the fact that they go down to ISO 64 or something like that, or even lower, and it just doesn't happen on all the cameras. I do love the fact that you can make them darker.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the video side, there's some more restrictions with what you can do with like your shutter speed and things like that can cause the image to completely change from the cinematic language and look, the aesthetic that we're used to. But I I would go with like an EOS R. I would definitely look at a couple aperture lights, whether it's a 120D and maybe a 300D. And this stuff's expensive. I mean, you're looking at investing probably close to $10,000 to get what I would think is a really good entry level kit. I don't really like messing around with a lot of the less expensive panel lights. The lighting quality isn't as good. Sometimes the color temperatures vary between them.
Shift, yeah.
So what were those lights again? Sorry,
I have the Aperture 120Ds, and I have rented the 300D on a few shoots, and those work really well. We are also fortunate to have a rental house here in Omaha, and this doesn't really pertain to the lone wolf filmmaker, but we have some, higher end cinema lights and some LED lights at our rental house that we can get some pretty powerful lights for not too much money as far as the rate goes.
And for still shooters out there, the Aperture 120D is like a monoblock shaped light, a bit like you would with a strobe and things. So it fits on a normal.
My question as well.
Stand. Yeah, and it's got the Bowens S-type fit on it as well.
Yeah, it's really great for controlled lighting. If you don't have any windows in your space that you're shooting against, it's not powerful enough to light a subject in front of a window. But it's just an all-around utilitarian light to light interviews. Throw some light up into a space if you need to bring the levels up. It really does a good job with that.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I presume you're hesitant to say about the panels is because the lack of modifications that you do in terms of the lighting, right?
Right. And the panels just aren't really built for, they do have light modifiers. They'll have these like softbox Velcro kind of on things, and they just don't really work very well.
We can either have softbox or we can have softbox.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. We can either have a square end to the end of our light, or we can put a softbox on it and have a slightly larger diffused square. It's up to you.
It's up to you. Right.
Yeah. No, I hate the panels.
Yeah. And then like just the CRI value on them, from what I've seen, is not very high. Yes. And so it can really distort your color representation. The aperture light certainly may not be like the ultimate light to use, whether it's photography or film. But as far as that entry level, democratized, accessible light that really can get a lot of bang for the buck, I think those Aperture Lightstorm lights are great.
Yeah, they're good thing, and they pack down. They're fairly lightweight as well. They weigh no more than a standard strobe anyway, do they? I mean, you start moving above that, and you start moving into the realms of like the Arri S30s and the S60s, and all those higher budget sort of kit with better CRI and more color accuracy.
And then for the people that are like, well, what about audio? I just use a Rode NTG2, and then
cool.
And then we'll kick that into my camera. I usually use it with my C300, but if you're using like an EOS R or something, you might just need to record your audio separately and sync it later. I just have a Tascam DR60D Mark II, and then for a lav mic, I have a Tascam DR10L, which records to itself. But those Rode wireless Go's, I think, are a really solid option for mirrorless or DSLR shooters. I haven't used one yet, but I would love to switch to that lav system.
I've got a Rode lav system here, but it's the video shooter one with the belt pack and things. It's not the newer ones.
Yeah, the new one's pretty slick that you can connect it to your camera and sync to picture while you film it.
Good, nice little solo kit. Yeah, so not too bad. But anybody that's just decided to go, hey, I want to be a filmmaker, I have no experience. Go and drop $10,000. You'll be all right.
Yeah,
I have the kit you want. Fine. Okay, well, we've reached a midpoint of the show here, Matt, and this is where we dive into the rapid fire, not so rapid fire round, where we bombard you with 10 questions that may be relevant to your skills in your industry or may have no relevance at all. And we may learn something, or our audience may learn absolutely nothing. Are you ready for this?
I am ready.
Okay. Favorite studio kit upgrade?
Ooh. If I had to do a studio kit upgrade, I would get an Aperture 300X tomorrow.
Bam. Done.
Yep.
Okay. Ketchup or mustard?
Ooh. My first thought was mustard.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there.
What?
Yeah. I'm a mustard man. Yeah.
I use mustard a lot, and I make a lot of like little pan sauces. Like if I cook a steak or something, and mustard is the secret weapon in creating a good pan sauce.
There's a lot of middle-class people on this podcast today. It's interesting.
Very bougie of me to talk about pan sauces on this.
Let's try and bring it back.
Yeah,
let's try and bring it back. Yeah.
This isn't binging with Babish here. Come on.
Yeah, but you can't beat a bit of mustard and a bit of cheese sauce.
That's right.
It goes a long way.
That's right.
Yeah. Favorite project you've worked on so far?
Oh gosh, I'm going to say two of them. On the concert side, I've worked on Gwen Stefani's Las Vegas show, and that was awesome. And then on my personal filmmaking side, I made a short documentary called The Toy Maker on a woodworker here in Omaha who has been creating handcrafted toys out of wood for like the last 50 years. And that was a shoot that, like the whole shoot, I was in the flow state. I came out of it euphoric. The edit just melted together perfectly the way I wanted it to. It was a really satisfying project.
Dream project.
Yeah.
Nice.
Must have piece of kit in your camera bag.
Ooh. Got it. The first thing I thought about was built-in ND. So I don't want to go to the camera, but if you can get a camera that has built-in ND, whether it's the Sony lineup, Canon, Panasonic, whatever, to me, built-in ND is the hidden super weapon of any shooting kit.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Have your kids ever walked into your studio while you're recording a YouTube episode?
No, but my wife has.
Ah, there you go.
To do a load of laundry. Like, hey, babe. Kind of rolling.
Love it.
Rolling here. Honey.
Love it.
Oh,
you just rolled in and you're already on your sixth take.
Yeah.
Just like, I had it then. Damn it, woman.
Well, you know what? On my tips video, my daughter did interrupt. She didn't walk in on it, but she woke up at like 10:30 at night and she wanted a snack. So I actually left the part where I'm like, hey guys, I got to pause for a second.
Remember that.
And get my kiddo a snack. So, because I stopped and I'm like, what's going on up there? Because they don't ever wake up in the middle of the night. Anyway. Yeah.
Beach or pool?
Pool.
Oh, God, I can't believe it took a while.
So
that one.
bougie.
Culture
I know.
turn in there.
So bougie.
Maybe it's control.
Such a difficult question.
The control issue that I have. I can't control the beach.
Favorite beer?
Oh gosh, right now I am drinking a beer called the brand isn't Moss, but it's a Mexican lager from a local brewery here out of Glenwood, Iowa. Keg Creek Brewing Company. And it's delicious.
I hope you're not meaning physically right now because it's about 10:30 in the morning.
I know,
I've already hit.
No judgment here, mate. No judgment.
We're not doing beer brunch, guys. I'm already two in.
Damn, my coffee feels sort of underpowered by now.
Yeah, okay. I got a little sidecar here too. Some whiskey.
Good man.
Ever had a shot you just couldn't get right?
Gosh, yes. Yeah, I've had a shot where I see it in my mind and that we cannot get that camera position to do it. And I've just been just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to cut it. Yeah.
Yep.
Move on.
You've decided to give up film production and filming and video. What are you going to do instead?
I'm going to become a psychologist or psychiatrist, therapist.
Whoa, really?
Yep.
Holy crap.
I think in another life I was I'm giving top-notch therapy to people because I do it in a sense already, and I know that's my other thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I keep going back to your YouTube.
That's right.
Videos.
Gosh, I feel like I'm laying on a leather tufted chase here. But
I gotta say to our listeners, if you haven't seen any of Matt's videos, go to his YouTube page because the voice is mellow and smooth. People, I would say, pull up a comfy chair because
lay back,
just gonna
get some Final Cut therapy. Yeah, we got you covered. Right. Hey, settle down. You've got problems. I have answers. Let's go.
It'll be all right.
It'll be okay.
What's the biggest mistake you've ever made on set?
Oh gosh.
Just keep it down to just one,
Yeah, no. I'm trying to feel like. So we have a running gag on my sets to see who's going to be the set klutz. To me, it's there's always the set klutz, somebody that's just kind of klutzy, And it's usually
you make a joke out of it.
Yeah, it's usually a competition between me and my AC and cinematographer, Cody Jones. And the reason that I hire people on my crews is because the minute I'm managing too much, this goes back to my control issues, it becomes too much and I'm klutzy. I am fortunate that I haven't like dropped a light on somebody or anything like that. But the biggest mistake I've made on set, man, that is tough. I am drawing a blank on that. I think that like some of the stuff like on my YouTube channel, like screwing up the audio, little things like that. But and the entire time that I've been doing professional stuff for clients and whatnot, I have not had anything catastrophic happen, like forgot to press record, formatted a hard drive, that kind of thing. So yeah,
I was on a video shoot once where I was, like, it was a video house filming me, and the fucking guy on the camera who I was talking into was stood behind the camera, obviously, because I mean, no offense, but he was one of these people who just has to press the button, right?
Yeah.
And he just presses the button, and he was just stood there behind the camera, just going, oh. I'm looking at the camera, and he stood right behind it, and he's just there, just like, and he's just yawning. I'm like, mate, that's all I can see is you yawning right in front of me. Do you know how distracting that is?
So that actually brings me to the answer to the question. So I was working.
The truth comes out now. Just needed that nudge, Jake.
So in doing all the concert content, I was in Los Angeles and I was working with my buddy, Nick. His company was hired to handle the graphics package for the screen content for Dancing with the Stars, for that part of that, for their like a couple of episodes toward the end of the season. And one day he had something and he couldn't be to set. So he had me there as his representative. And we were mostly done with all of our stuff. So I was making minor tweaks to some of the content. And, the director of the show, really nice guy, British guy, drove a Ferrari to set and all that stuff. Super cool. Like talk about somebody that is in control of chaos. He's in front of the control board, calling all the shots. I mean, just amazing to see him work. So I'm, sitting back on my laptop in the control room because there's not like an official seat for me. And I'm like posting to Twitter or Facebook or something. And I've got the tweet typed out and it's getting toward the end of the day. And because I don't have a lot of intense stuff to do, time's going slow. So I type out, can time move any slower is what I'm going to tweet. And nobody knows where I am or what I'm doing. And of all the times this director decides to sit down next to me, because he hasn't said word one to me the whole time I've been there, because he's mostly talking to my buddy Nick. He decides he wants to sit down for a little chat, and my laptop is open, and I forget that I have this tweet ready to go. And he's asking me a couple questions, what's your story, blah, blah, blah. And I could see him kind of look over and he read it. And his whole energy shifted, just like what you experienced watching that guy yawn. Like, hey man, I am doing like the highest level work here, and I'm sorry. Is this boring you? Are you having a hard time?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a cot in the break room. Why don't you go ahead and take a little snooze? We'll let you know. We'll let you know when we're ready for you. So I was just mortified. I think about it all the time. I'm like,
did he chew you out, or did he just walk off?
Nope. His demeanor changed. His energy shifted. He wrapped up.
He was
and he just went back to his station.
He was obviously more British than I was. I fucking let rip on this kid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's very, very reserved.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get hired back for the next year, so who knows? honestly, who knows
anybody's fault.
If that factored in?
Yeah, we'll never know. Contributing factor, but we'll never know the truth. Well, man, you'll be pleased to know that's the end of the 10 questions. And what a question to end on. That
pretty
one
good.
Was definitely pretty good. You smashed that one. Very quick answers. I think that's one of the quickest 10 questions we've done.
Nice.
Believe it or not.
In all fairness, yeah, believe it or not. Crazy.
We'll take it.
But moving on. So let's go back into editing a little bit. How did you get so good with Final Cut Pro? I mean, where did you learn it from? And what are some of your favorite functions within it?
I started editing digital video editing in film school. We cut our short films on Avid Media Composer, and then the last film that we did, we cut on Final Cut Pro 6, I believe. So I learned there. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I mentioned that things, shit was kind of hitting the proverbial fan there when I landed. But then my buddy Nick, who I just referenced in the Dancing with the Stars portion, he was creating concert content on 2 concerts at the same time. So he was doing, and I'm sure you guys are huge fans of this band. It just reads on your faces that you would love this band. But New Kids on the Block was doing their big reunion tour.
Wow.
I bet you guys probably flew to the States to see it.
I mean,
Jake,
are you even old enough for that, Matt?
You wouldn't think so, but oh yeah. my genetic blessings of youthful face here is does not speak for what my true age is.
Right. Okay.
I think you look good for 76.
Yeah, right, yeah. So they were doing their reunion tour back in 2008. And at the same time, he was also creating the content for So You Think You Can Dance. They did a touring show. So he's like, dude, I am overwhelmed. Can you edit? I'm like, yeah, I edited a short film. I'll come in and edit this concert content that I've never done before. So I really learned with him in the trenches in a windowless concrete room in Burbank, California, for 14 hours a day. We did
so glamorous.
Yeah, numerous shows together in Final Cut 7. And then when Final Cut 10 came out and we watched the keynote, Nick and I both watched it together 10 years ago, like 2 Apple fanboy nerds that we are. And every time they dropped a new feature, like the magnetic timeline or this or that, we were like, what? You are kidding me. Because we would sit in this room and Nick would be like, why can't I just move this clip here in the timeline and have everything just move down out of the way? And I'm like, we just go back and forth. And then when they actually invented that, we were like, oh my God, this is what we've been talking about forever. So what I'm trying to say is, in that windowless room in Burbank, California, Nick and I,
nerdy shit right there.
We invented Final Cut Pro 10. We just didn't know how to put the resources of a multi-billion-dollar company to bear on writing the app. It's one of those missed opportunities. Very disappointing moment in my background.
And that paycheck's still floating around in the mail somewhere.
It's there somewhere. I actually was an Apple employee twice too, and so unfortunately they just paid me just a basic wage. Yeah, I worked for Apple retail in the Pasadena store in California in between like a long break in my video editing work.
Okay.
And so
you one of those guys at the Genius Bar or whatever?
I wasn't. I was just a blue T-shirt kid trying to not even trying to sell computers. Just people just wanted like, hey, we want to spend $12,000 on a computer for every room in our house. And I'm like, of course you do. You're in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? Yeah.
But I got to meet John C. Reilly and several other actors while I was there, while they're buying their computers.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I suppose you get to see them all in there.
That's right.
True. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Posted a job.
Yeah. And then I actually did a tour with Apple when I moved back here to Omaha. Did like 9 months as an in-home tech advisor. So when you call in for support, I would, help you, reset your computer.
Over the phone?
Yeah, over the phone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, over the phone help. So that's where I really...
You must have done something pretty bad in your past life, buddy. I mean, you must have pissed somebody off.
Well, the real nice thing with working for Apple is even as a part-time employee, and you guys don't have to worry about this much with the with your health system there, but we're always scrambling for health insurance here in the States, and Apple as a part-time employee gives you full health care. And this is the best health care you have ever had. You literally pay nothing out of pocket. If you want to go to an acupuncturist, it's covered. I mean, it was amazing as a part-time employee to pay about $60 US every 2 weeks for the best healthcare coverage I've ever had. So it was that part of the reason I got the job was because my wife and I needed to cover health insurance because I think this was,
that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. I find it really difficult here being privileged, whatever you want to call it here. But yeah, that is crazy.
Well, it's one of the biggest obstacles, I think, to people thinking as creative entrepreneurs here in the States. I see a lot of successful YouTubers from Canada, and I wonder because they don't have to think about having a real job to provide healthcare for them and their families. That it allows them to, maybe it allows them to pursue the creative entrepreneur space. I mean, because, my wife has the real job and she loves her job, but it provides, really great healthcare for us. And without that, I don't know if I could devote myself to running my own business and starting a YouTube channel without healthcare for my wife and kids.
Point. Yeah, you're working for yourself. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, valid point. Like you say, we kind of, we don't have that thought process over here because we're so lucky with the National Health Service.
I perhaps wouldn't have gone quite as far to say Canadians don't have real jobs, but I mean, it's it's something to think about, man.
So what? Yeah, and so for the listeners, I'm doing air quotes for like real jobs. That's sort of something that we're up against in the Midwest culture in the United States. They think, oh, you started your own little business making videos. When are you gonna? How's that gonna pay the mortgage and get your kids through college? There's just a sort of that blue collar
stigma attached.
Yeah, and I want to be bougie with my own company making videos. So sitting by the pool eating mustard.
Nailed it! Oh man, just to wrap up, we could just end the podcast there. That would be a full wrap up. I love it.
That was my improv training. I was in an improv comedy troupe in college, so I learned how to.
It's been a build up this entire time. Legend. But speaking of YouTube, you upload every week?
I'm not like perfectly every week, but I usually have a video every week. It does vary by day. It's not like every Wednesday at 5:00 or anything like that. But yeah, I'm getting to the point where it's once a week, and that's partially because I've built an audience and I'm earning revenue from it. So it has helped with self-discipline and really wanting to be consistent for the subscribers.
Well, that was my second part of the question. I mean, is that a passion project, that you use to stay creative in the quieter weeks, or are you loving the process of trying to fight that YouTube algorithm to make money?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it comes from a couple of things. So with screenwriting, you are essentially creating a blueprint that someone else is going to then turn into a finished product that the audience is going to consume. And although having a writing credit on a big movie, that plays in theaters is really amazing, you're going to watch it and go, well, that wasn't what I intended, or they cut this scene that was really important to me. Why do you shoot it this way? You're going to see that your vision wasn't realized. That can be frustrating for someone like me who I think
I get that for sure.
Yeah, writes stories and tells stories because I had a vision for what it would be. And I literally am transcribing the movie I'm watching in my mind onto paper. And then secondly, when you do client work, which can be really great when you have those dynamics where you're a collaborator, ultimately because they're paying for it, if they really want to put their foot down and say, I don't want it to be this way, I think it needs to be changed, they have that power, I think. And although that really hasn't gotten to that point, I basically go, even though I'm going to benefit from this, I'm going to make a profit. I'm not as fulfilled as I would be as if I was in total control of the entire process. And that's what YouTube gets me. It gives me the ability to hatch an idea for a video, to execute that video, and to release it to an audience and connect with people who are responding to the material in positive ways. And that's the real rush of it. And I can see where a lot of YouTubers get addicted to that, not only because there's a feeling when you're monetized that if I make a video, I can kind of print money. Like money just starts accruing when I make this thing. And that's really exciting. But again, like delivering your, and I'm not like, there's not like this huge vision for a video necessarily like there would be for an hour, for a feature screenplay.
Yeah.
But it's an idea that you then act on and release.
No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a really good answer. Yeah, I think really good answer. Yeah.
And that's what's exciting about it to me. So I could see myself if YouTube took off, several 100,000 subscribers, to be fortunate enough to have 1 million subscribers. I could see myself transitioning into doing YouTube primarily, and then maybe doing more consulting work for companies as opposed to doing the design, strategy, and execution of that work.
Getcha.
I don't know much about YouTube. What is the subscriber base you need to make a living from it?
4,000.
Yeah, you have to hit 1,000 subscribers now, and you have to have what's called 4,000 public watch hours, which is actually the harder metric to hit. after you've hit the 1,000 subscribers.
4,000 what? A month?
Because they changed it, didn't they? They changed it sort of, was it last year or the year before? Because I was in the monetization category before with some little bits that I did on there. And then they flipped it and then I was excluded from it. So then my channel was demonetized by YouTube. Even though they still throw ads in it. That's great. Thank you.
And that's right. Yes. And that's what will happen if you don't create content. If you don't have 4,000 public watch hours per year, well, let's say you had 100,000 subscribers, but you weren't posting enough to have that many public watch hours, they would actually demonetize you. Now they would like you said, they would still run ads on your content, but they'd be keeping all the money.
But you don't get paid for it.
You don't get paid for it.
Yeah, jammy gits. Yeah, so I still get ads in any of my content that I put up. Not that I put any up recently. But yeah, so YouTube now make all the money on the ads now, even though the ads are still in my YouTube videos, which are annoying as shit.
Yeah, I'm the same. I haven't put any videos up in years, but so all my videos are still up there. That's interesting.
So they make the money from it now and I get sweet FA. So it's harder since they changed it because they want people to create more content, but they're going, hey, we're going to pay you to create content. Oh, no, we're not. You've ticked one of the boxes. You've got 1,000 subscribers, but you're not getting the watch hours. So we're going to keep all the money too.
That's exactly right.
So it's not really encouraging people to. A lot of people that make YouTube content also have, if you want to call it, their day job.
Right.
How can you try and push people to make more content when they're still doing their day job? They don't have the physical time. If you pay them and keep the category the same, the limits the same, then maybe they might be able to give up their day job and commit to creating more content so you can play more.
Well, what is the target then? How many people do you need? Like how many hours do you need to watch for you to make a living from it?
Oh gosh, I mean,
that's different completely.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way the amount of income that I generate between YouTube, my Amazon Associates account, which I set up, and then I have it set up so that if somebody like in Sweden clicks on a link to an Aperture 120D in my description, if they purchase it, I get a commission off of that.
Yeah.
So I get a commission off that, and then there's I actually had one user the other week send me $25 via PayPal because he was so thankful for the content that helped him.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. So,
that's nice.
So, that's not a serious revenue stream on the channel, but YouTube has developed and they're testing this feature. I don't know if you have heard about this, but it's called the applause button. And it's going to be down by the like button, down by the like and dislike button on the YouTube page where somebody can click a pause and tip you basically $2, $5, $10, or they can select an amount of their choosing. And that money goes directly to the YouTuber. I think YouTube, of course, takes a cut of it, but
yeah, of course.
But that's a new revenue stream I think that they're coming up with to help compensate YouTubers so that they're, again, continuing more likely to create content, because it's starting to get to the point where, if I keep doing this and I think my monthly earnings are anywhere between $250 and $400 a month from ad revenue with just under 9,000 subscribers with a video per week.
Okay.
Which is great because, but there's only so long you can do that where you're not, really building some serious revenue to happily.
I see what you're saying. So it's a plateau that you've kind of reached that it's difficult to take it to the next level. Is that what you're saying?
Well, and I think the more you make content, you're going to, I think that there's a natural sort of curve to, you're excited, you're making YouTube content, you're cranking it out, you're building your subscribers. And I think at some point, if the revenue doesn't come in and some other things don't happen to really keep you invigorated, you're going to probably start to kind of flatline a little bit and go, of course. I'm putting all this work in for $400 a month.
I just packed it in. It just wasn't for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And so who knows where it'll lead to with mine. As of right now, I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying having new ideas for content, editing the videos, creating it, getting it out there. But if I don't see serious revenue increases, it's certainly possible that in the coming years I might kind of refocus on other areas that are better for my business.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a hard graft. Making it on YouTube, and even harder now. There's even more content on it to watch.
Yeah,
well.
You really have to differentiate yourself to rise above. Yeah. In my area, the Peter McKinnons and Maddie Hapoyas and all those folks that really do create incredible content.
Yeah, I saw one recently with Tom Antos doing a review on portable NAS drives.
Yeah.
where he takes on set, and he had like an 8-bay system where he had 75 terabytes.
Wow. Legit.
It's a massive unit,
Yeah.
and he actually carries it on set with him as well. It's like,
wow.
Seriously, that's not portable storage. 75 terabytes in 8 bays.
Oh,
Are you joking?
goodness.
It's like, holy cow. Okay, so on YouTube, where's your YouTube channel going next then? What sort of content and tutorials will you be sharing with us so that we can learn more great stuff?
Yeah, I think we're going to continue with just the Final Cut tutorials. There's still a lot of workflow things that I want to talk about, from sound effects editing to how to prep a project to go into DaVinci for color grading. So some more advanced stuff. I'm always looking for some of the more entry-level tutorials, some of the things that I take for granted in my workflow that somebody who's maybe launching a YouTube channel or starting that lone wolf kind of filmmaker business, where, those types of workflow things might help them, whether it's, I just did one on how to import media into Final Cut, which, I'm like, it just seems sort of simple and clear cut to me, but to some people that might be valuable to see how I do it. And that's another thing. It's a lot like, I don't want to like just translate the Final Cut manual. I want to talk to people about how I do things and have conversations open to saying, to improving my workflow. Like, I fully admit I may not be doing this the best way possible. So if you know of a better way or something more efficient, please let me know. This is an exchange of ideas. So definitely want to do that. And then you can see recently on the channel, I was just doing some kind of rough iPhone vlogging, breaking down how I do different lighting setups for the different sets, I have in my studio. And that's the next video I'm going to post. It's not really a tutorial. It's more just, hey, this is the gear I'm using and what my thinking is in setting it up to light my scene and film my vlogs. And then we definitely want to move into documenting the creation of some of our original content. And that kind of ties into what the overall goal of Midland Pictures is and why I have my YouTube channel as Midland Pictures versus just Matthew O'Brien, a personal brand. My ultimate goal is to really have an original content studio based here in Omaha, where we're creating everything from short films, short documentaries, feature documentaries, low budget feature films, web series, original content that we can monetize, whether it's the traditional studio or streaming systems, doing a festival run and then figuring out how to get a distributor and connecting with places like Netflix and, the different film studios, to figuring out ways to maybe monetize it in other ways, whether it's Patreon, what you can do on YouTube with maybe a short film, and figuring out all that stuff. So I really want to document a lot of the behind the scenes processes that we're using to actually create this content, have conversations with the filmmakers that I work with, and, really look behind the scenes at what we're doing to make, for example, our current project's a short documentary we're doing on a singer-songwriter musician here in Omaha who's been doing it for 54 years. He has a prolific music catalog. He's still doing what he calls honky-tonk shows. He's kind of a Southern rock country singer here in the Omaha area. And it's this really interesting portrait, I think, of his life as a musician, a blue-collar business owner. And, the fact that he's in his late 60s and he's still chasing the dream of breaking into the music industry. And it's really, really incredible.
Just on a break.
That's nuts. It's great, that energy, though. That's amazing. Yeah.
That'll be me in another decade or so, still trying to break into the photographic industry after 30 years.
It'll probably be me with screenwriting. I mean, I've had a couple close calls with my screenwriting. God, so close. And then it just falls apart, and you just keep trying to crank away at it.
You got to do it, yeah. But I mean, all got to start somewhere. And speaking of that, have you got any advice for people starting out in YouTube? Because obviously it's been around for a while now, and it feels like the people who've been on board from the beginning have a huge head start. Any tips for people trying to break into YouTube?
Yeah, I think when this question's asked to a lot of people, the natural thing for us to do is to basically say, these are all the mistakes I made. Don't make these mistakes. Do it perfectly from the start. And I really feel like it's important for YouTube creators to find their voice through experimentation, to figure out what works, whether it's long form vlogging, doing filming yourself, editing a project and talking through it, whatever content speaks to you or that you have an impulse to create, to just do it. Don't don't let your fears of being on front of camera or the fears of it not being perfectly crafted like a Peter McKinnon video keep you from doing it. Certainly have quality standards and try to think about, good audio, lighting if you can. But if you have a camera and you have something to say, really try to craft something and put it out there and learn the form. It's an entirely unique form from how you shoot it to how you edit it, and allow yourself to make mistakes and find your voice through that process. If you look back at my early content, I'm probably going to do like a channel roast or something where I, show some of the old stuff and you're like, just what were you thinking? The big shift that I experienced was when I did get monetized and that first video went, viral. And I had like people like Renee Ritchie, like tweeting how much help it was. You're sort of like, you feel this next level happen. And now you're like, okay, I have this audience. There's people that are watching this. It's providing value to people. Now that I've really found sort of my niche with this, that's when I really took things up to the next level and really devoted a lot of time and focus to, to crafting things more, to where now I'm actually scripting and using a teleprompter for a lot of my videos so that it's much more focused, but still authentic. My Access Hollywood skills, I'm hopeful that I can read a teleprompter, but still feel like it's a little off the cuff and kind of authentic in the moment.
Do you think there are any tricks to YouTube? What I mean by that is, do you think it's about like you got to upload twice a week? It's more about the consistency of upload, or is it more about the quality? Is it more about the length? Like, do you think that there is a trick to it, or do you think you just have to be good at all of them?
I think if you're wanting to see growth on YouTube, I think consistency is huge. I think
I would agree with that.
Absolutely. Once a week is to me ideal. I don't know that daily vlogging is the route to go because I just feel like for me, it would impact my, that whole work-life balance thing. It would just be too overwhelming.
Demanding.
Some people love it.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Yeah.
So consistency. And then I think thinking, again, predominantly when people come to YouTube, they're looking for education. That's the big thing still, how to do this. So if in your area of expertise, in your world, there's some content where you can teach something, how to do something, I think that's a way to get people to build an audience, to have content that shows up in the search results. And so to create content that serves that, but then content that serves you as well. So I think the third thing is really having something to say. And that doesn't mean just like, voice your opinion, but, really have like a vision for a video, something that you feel like is missing from YouTube, and let your voice shine light on a new subject, do things in a different way, have a style or a way about doing your storytelling that is unique to you. And I think that'll, get you connected emotionally with viewers.
And you just got to do that once a week. Easy.
Yeah, easy.
And then cut it in iMovie.
Yeah, super easy.
Just like that, Jake. And as we know, you don't need the biggest and best equipment. And there's a lot of people filming on, iPhones and things out there now that, are good enough for YouTube. And I certainly know for a fact that quality is not always relevant. I've seen some YouTube stuff. Like my daughter watches kids YouTube, and she watches this kids channel, and this kid has over 9 million subscribers.
Jeez. Yeah.
Okay, the child at 6 years old is pulling in over $1 million a year revenue. Yep. Over $1 million. The kid's a multi-millionaire at 7 years old already, and he's just filming herself. Her parents are filming her playing in the house and building sets and water pools, and the audio's echoey and bloody awful, and they're just using natural daylight. And they're multi-millionaires. They bought a new house with it and a new pool with it and a new everything. No. Yeah, it just baffles me completely. Well, but fair play to them. There's no envy.
And I think their audience being kids, kids are going to have a much different threshold for quality, like especially audio. If you're someone that's going to create a YouTube channel where you're going to have young adults watching, that's one thing that I would not compromise on is the quality of your audio. The iPhone does an amazing job under more optimal conditions, even somewhat less optimal outside of picking up audio. There's a channel that I follow, these kids out of Tennessee that buy like crashed supercars like Lamborghinis and Dodge Hellcats, and they filmed this thing with an iPhone with no microphones, and they have over 2 million subscribers, but their audio sounds great. And I know they don't use like lavs or anything like that at all. So, for anybody that's pursuing it, really look at your audio tutorials and different, a lav mic, something that will get you good audio.
Little Rode Go plugged into the side of the iPhone. Isn't it?
A YouTuber that this is one of the nice things about YouTube is a woman got inspired, she said, from my channel to finally just start her channel. And she's doing a cooking show. Well, the first few videos she released, I watched, and she was just speaking to a DSLR, and the audio was terrible. Super echoey, you could really barely hear her. And I'm like, buy the Rode Wireless or a lav mic, something. You have got to get better audio or people are not going to listen because it's too painful. And by her 5th video, she had gotten it. And it is just a breath of fresh air to hear her full voice talking you through these really wonderful bougie recipes, and like grilled lettuce and stuff like that.
Mustard and stuff like that.
Mustard everywhere. Mustard all the time. Yeah. So audio.
Audio.
Just coming to the end here, I like to ask this to some of our guests, and I'm sure you must have an answer to this, but you must have a funny story that you can share with us from one of your sets, one of your projects, something crazy that happened that was unexpected, or I don't know, just a funny story from your time behind the camera.
Yeah, I'm trying to access the memory banks here and see if I have anything.
Without incriminating you too much. Obviously.
Yeah, no.
He's obviously got no NAS storage going on there. He's searching the old...
I'm going through the archives here. Well, it's hard because I'm trying to think between film school. I'm trying to think of like the times we were editing, for the concert content, if there were any crazy stories that came out of that. I
mean, nothing as bad as writing a dodgy tweet or anything like that. Nothing as embarrassing as that.
This isn't necessarily like a specific story, but it's more of sort of a kind of a really interesting work environment. One of the concerts that I've worked on over the years is a little musical act called Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Not sure if you guys are familiar with them, but it's a big show that goes around the States, and they've done some European festivals and stuff too. But they do heavy metal versions of Beethoven and Christmas music. The Christmas music stuff is their bread and butter, and they tour the United States from November up until Christmas. They do 2 different tours. And they just blow people's faces off with pyro and lasers, heavy metal, huge sets with complex articulating pieces. I mean, it is unbelievable. It's actually one of the highest grossing U.S. tours every single year. And it's sort of the band or the group that not really anybody knows about.
That's nuts.
Wow. So their founder, this visionary genius, Paul O'Neill, created all of this. He had a vision for it decades ago and brought his whole vision to life. And I had the good fortune of being flown with, again, my buddy Nick, who does all this concert content, to one of his homes in like outside of Tampa Bay, Florida. And we spent 2 weeks in a Embassy Suites hotel room at a conference table that the hotel arranged for us to be in the room. And Paul's a night owl, so I had to switch my schedule to nights. And I sat on Pond 5 and stock websites sourcing some of the most bizarre content you could think of, from tigers jumping inside of snow globes to weird owl creatures flapping their animated wings against a starry background. And this guy is just, and then this, and then this, and then this, we got to do this. And then he would like go into the history of like modern civilization and take these things from like the 1920s and show how it's linked to the audience now. And we have to do this and do that. And we're just like, this guy is on a different wavelength. But he passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago from a bad combination of prescription medication, I believe, was what happened. And he's sorely missed by the tour. It was always wonderful. He was so kind. And he actually had given me, at the end of this 2 weeks in Florida, which at times felt like I was trapped there. Like, is he going to keep us here forever? Like, when are we going to leave? He told me this really great story and reached into his pocket and pulled out a gold double eagle from like 1888 or something. And he gave it to me. You know, he does that a lot on his shows. Like, if you ever read those stories in the news about the Salvation Army getting gold coins in random cities in the U.S., I believe it was always him doing that. And he does that at his shows. He goes around, and when there's little kids, he'll give them like a silver dollar with like a date, and he'll say, "Look up this date and see what happened." And he was just a wonderful person, but very quirky. And you know, we went to lunch one time while we were there, and when he walked out of the restaurant, he was handing every single person in the restaurant a $100 bill. Thank you so much for helping us. Thanks so much, you know, for serving us. You know, giving your time to help, you know, helping us have a meal so we can go make this content for our audiences.
Wow, what a legend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Paul O'Neill. He's, if the listeners haven't ever heard of him or Trans-Siberian Orchestra, you most likely have heard Trans-Siberian Orchestra's music. You just don't know it.
Nuts. Okay.
Don't know.
Interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, some of that was a wonderful 2 weeks to spend with him.
Yeah, interesting story. Okay. Yeah, wow.
Crazy. Yeah. Well, to wrap this up then, Matt, any takeaways for the upcoming filmmakers out there who are trying to improve their work and get more known? And what should they be doing? And more importantly, what should they not be doing?
Well, the first thing I think of when I think about what you should be doing is I think you should be really focusing on your preparation. I think some of the tendencies for people getting into the creative arts and becoming creative entrepreneurs is sometimes we can tend to just wing it. And I think as things get more complex, you have people who are depending on you on your crews, maybe a client depending on you. Winging it just is not going to cut it. But there's a balance. You don't want to prep so much that you're on rails and you're not open to improvisation or the moment creating something and taking you in a different direction. So it's really striking that balance between preparation and fluidity on set so that you can be open to channeling those new opportunities, those new moments that might serve the vision of what you're creating. And when I say preparation, I mean everything from creating a setup schedule to doing a tech scout, actually looking at the space that you're going to be filming in, understanding how the outlets are laid out, what logistics issues there might be, whether or not there's not an elevator or there's a stairwell that might be tricky. Obviously scripting, outlining, whatever your content is. I think that's actually one of the early issues with my content on YouTube is I would just press record and wing it. And I think that content, really shows that that's not a good way to approach it. So that's what I would do. And then was the second part what not to do?
Yeah,
I think the second part, what not to do, is taking on leadership qualities. There's sort of, you hear these stories, especially out of Hollywood. There's a recent one going around pretty big from the Hollywood Reporter about Scott Rudin smashing an assistant's hands under like a computer that he like crashed or whatever, and freaking out and screaming at these people that were killing it to try to help him produce these films, even if it was just in his offices. I think keeping your ego in check and buying into this mentality that you are the center of the universe on all of the stuff that you create is going to create a situation where you're going to be alone. You're going to be on an island. And that doesn't mean that you won't work or make money, but your brand is going to be amongst crew people, different clients, and the people that, see this behavior is going to be one that's negative. And I don't know that in the end, your legacy needs to be something like that. So when I approach leadership with the people that I work with, I demand the very best from them, but I try to achieve that by building trust and honestly a form of love, that they would take a bullet for me in battle because I am humble, but I am focused and driven and hold quality to a high standard and demand a lot of people. I would rather they punish themselves with having me disappointed with them and beating themselves up for not delivering after what I've done for them than to just have them be scared of me. I don't want to run things based on fear. And that would be what I would suggest those coming up
not to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, good advice. It's I think that's good on set.
Wayne.
Mine's going to be a bit of a harsher description than yours, Matt. Yeah, just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. Yeah, your epitaph will be, I'm pretty sure I wasn't a dick.
I think that's a perfect round off to the episode, Matt. But before we do the final close off and the segment close, here's part of the show where we ask you to personally recommend 2 creatives from either the photographic, video, or sound world to come on a Podlemania as a guest. And of course, we ask you to get in touch with them and do a little intro to get in touch with us so we don't get arrested for harassment. And of course, then we'll get them on the show and get them booked in and get them on. So anyone spring to mind?
Yeah, so I had 2 people, one being a little bit a touch outside of that box of photo, video, audio. But this person works with creative professionals. One of the big things that really changed my approach to my business and my work was this mindset shift from commodity-based pricing to value-based pricing, and pricing your work based on the value of the results you're going to get for your client. So, if you help them increase revenue by 10%, and that's $1 million, you can price your work to be much more profitable because it's based on that $1 million that the client has told you they think this project is going to help them earn, versus hourly rates and day rates and things like that. It's also a mindset shift from just being an order taker to someone who's a practitioner and expert. And the gentleman that I'm speaking of is Jonathan Stark, and he has a podcast and a website called Ditching Hourly. And he's trying to help professionals remove hourly billing from the conversation. And this pertains a lot to our post-production officials. Well, what's your hourly rate?
Yeah.
Well, I'm $75 an hour, and the meter in the cab is just running when you get hired, even though they might want you to provide an estimate, but scope creep issues, blah, 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 all that stuff. So he might be an interesting person to have on the podcast if at all your listeners or even both of you are interested in hearing how to engage clients from that point of view. And I think for some of your listeners that are starting their businesses or are frustrated with how their business is going with the revenue they're earning, Jonathan can help unlock that mindset shift that I think will take you from, well, I'm gonna film 100 things a year and make $100,000. Well, what if you could film 10 things a year and make $100,000?
Okay, nice.
And then along those lines, and forgive me for both of these guests being sort of in a similar wheelhouse. There's a really great creative entrepreneur. He ran a studio out of Denver. His name is Joel Pilger, and he works with motion design firms to help them with their positioning and how can they identify what their superpowers are or is as a creative firm, and then have their website, social media, all of their branding and positioning, how they position themselves in the market, differentiate themselves from their competition to help them stand out and put themselves in a relationship with their clients where they are being looked up to by their clients, not, again, looked down to as just the person who pushes the button and gets the thing made.
It's nice. Very business orientated. Business orientated on that. I think that'd be a deep dive. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of us, too busy thinking about the creative side to think about the business aspect, which may help sculpt that creative side.
And maybe it'll help people to stay in business longer. I think one of the things we suffer from is you start a business as a creative entrepreneur, and when you don't know some of the business side of things, how to price, how to engage with your clients, you end up, working a ton of hours and spending a bunch of money on gear because you think gear is going to help solve your problems. And I think,
it doesn't.
I think this is a great way to open some of your listeners' minds to another way of thinking about how to engage clients.
Okay. Yeah, no, indeed. No, good couple of recommendations there. And if you could do the intro into that, we will look at responding straight away and getting those guys on. Perfect. Thank you. Right, Matt, before we wrap up, can you just tell our audience where they can find you, please? Where can they find you on all your social media channels?
Absolutely. So the YouTube channel is youtube.com/c/Midland Pictures, or you can just search for Midland Pictures. On social media, we're on Instagram at Midland Pictures. And then personally, I'm also on Instagram at Matthew T. O'Brien. And then on Twitter, which I'm not terribly active on, but at Matthew T. O'Brien there as well.
Yep. And obviously the website is just
midlandpictures.com. And I am creating just a MatthewO'Brien.co website just that covers, sort of me personally and my personal brand. And I hope to have that up in the next few months.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect. I think that's a great round off to the show. Jake, anything from you before I do the closing segment?
Covered a huge amount. Yeah.
Yes.
Huge amount.
I think it was great to see things from a different perspective. Somebody who's come from the city and making it work outside of the city is, and looking at some of the modern options that many of us shooters today, like using YouTube to make money and Amazon and that sort of stuff to make money. It's there. There's more ways than ever to make money with video and shooting now than ever. So it's great to see the other side of that as well.
And especially with the YouTube channel, part of the thinking behind that is how can you bring people to your brand and what you do so that they go, hey, my business has a problem and I need video help.
Yeah.
I look up to Matthew because of his YouTube channel and I'm going to bring him in as a collaborator. So it's a great way to have, in a sense, a sales funnel where you have right off the bat a much better dynamic with a potential client than someone that just Google searches production company Omaha. How much for a video, about this?
Yeah. So you go, Jake, we better get those YouTube videos recorded, mate. Get them out.
Fire it up again.
Okay, folks. If you would like to help support us to produce and record even more great interviews with some of the world's greatest creative talents, your support and donations are very much appreciated. And for those that don't know, you can find our donate button on our website at podlemania.com/donate. Even $1 or £1 would help keep the lights on here at Podlemania Towers. And remember, if you like this episode and don't want to miss out on new episodes, then please make sure to subscribe to us on your chosen podcast player. There's over 35 of them that we're on. And you can subscribe to us at podlemania.com/subscribe. Remember, you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes Store, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, and Podlemania, as I've said, and many others. And don't forget to like, comment, and share. And remember, Apple Podcast is the biggest one for us. If you could leave a comment on there, it'd be much appreciated. And you can go to our website on the donate buttons as well. And you can either go through PayPal or the buy us a coffee page, which is another format for it. But that said, thanks for listening to this episode and thanks for joining us. And we would just want to give a big thank you to our guest, Matthew O'Brien from Midland Pictures. Matt, it's been a pleasure deep diving with you on many different aspects. Great. I know we've thrown a mixed bundle at you today, but it's been awesome having you on. And if you're into wanting to learn more about Final Cut Pro, then head over to Midland Pictures YouTube channel for sure. I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
Awesome.
So from all of us here at Podlemania, we just want to say thank you, and we will catch you all in the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
So
Take care.
Good.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.